So you have an accepted contract to buy the house of your dreams. Congratulations. What's gonna happen next? Watch this video to find out. So congratulations, you got your contract accepted. The first thing you're gonna wanna do is talk to your realtor about the dates, the important dates in the contract. So the first thing that you're gonna wanna know is you're gonna wanna know all the important dates in the contract. Get with your realtor, talk about when your inspection period ends, talk about when the earnest money is due, talk about when the closing date is, talk about when the possession date is. All of these things are extremely important to you keeping your timeline and making sure that you know exactly what's going to happen. As a realtor, they immediately go in my calendar. I type up a whole thing reminding my buyers exactly when their dates are. And again, if you're watching this video, you don't have a realtor, I would love to be your realtor. I would love to represent you. My name is Jaylen. I make these videos because I love Kansas City. I love educating first-time home buyers in Kansas City or any home buyer in Kansas City. My phone number is listed below. You can call, you can text me, you can email me. Please reach out if you haven't found a realtor that you're working with. I would love to help you. The second thing that you need to do is you need to deposit your earnest money. Deposit your earnest money. When you wrote the contract, you specified a certain amount for earnest money, and then you specified a certain time period with which you would deposit your earnest money. So you can do it online typically. You can wire the funds. If you're here in Kansas City already, then you can drop it off at the title company with a check, but you need to deposit that earnest money. So make sure that you do it within the time frame specified in the contract. And again, your realtor will know. If you work with me, I will know. Because if you don't do it within the time frame specified, the seller actually has contractual rights to cancel the contract. So you're gonna wanna make sure that you know all your dates, you wanna make sure that you know all these things, because when it comes time to these timelines, don't fool around with these timelines. Know your dates, deposit your earnest money. So inspections. The next step is inspections. At the same time you're depositing your earnest money, you should be scheduling your inspections. If you work with me, I have inspectors that I trust that I will refer to you. You can go and look them up, look up their reviews, look up their work. But remember, going back to the second video about assembling your team, you're the person, you're the one who chooses, all right? Nobody else chooses for you, you choose. So if you don't like the inspector that I recommend, or if you don't like the inspector that your realtor recommends, then you have the right to choose, okay? You have the right to look up somebody and you have the right to choose. When you schedule them, if you want to attend that inspection, make sure that it lines up with your work schedule, right? Don't schedule them on a day that you have to work all day and you can't get away to attend that inspection. Typically, you're not gonna attend the whole inspection. That's gonna take hours. You're gonna typically attend the tail end of that inspection. So after they're done with finding out all these things about the house, they can give you a run through of the condition of the house. So here are all the inspections that you can typically schedule, and there's a lot more that I'll put on a list here, but here are the typical inspections that you can schedule. You can schedule a general inspection, you can schedule a termite inspection, you can schedule a radon inspection, and a sewer inspection. Those are the 4 typical ones that a lot of my buyers do. A general inspection is basically the inspector going through all the components of the house that I listed below before in a previous video. So if you want that, go ahead and click to that video and take a look at that. So they're gonna do a visual inspection of that. They will turn on all the components, they'll make sure that they're all working, they'll check all the outlets. But what they can't do is they can't rip up drywall, okay? They can't like bust a hole in the house and check the inside of something that they can't see. It's a visual inspection only. A termite inspector, well, it's exactly what it sounds like. They're gonna inspect the house and make sure that there are no termites in the house. If there are termites, they're gonna recommend to you a termite treatment that you can buy or the seller can buy, depending on how you negotiated, so that the house can be treated for termites. Radon inspection. If you don't know what radon is, there's a funny episode of The Office where Toby is putting all these radon tests around the office, and Michael starts throwing them away. But if you haven't seen that, you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry about it. I'm going to explain it right now. Radon is a colorless, odorless gas that emits from the ground here in Kansas and in Missouri. What happens is it can cause cancer if you live in too high levels of radon for too long. Now, this isn't an issue where if you walk into a cloud of radon, you're gonna like drop dead immediately. It's more of something that if you live in it for prolonged periods of time at too high of a level, then it could cause lung cancer. Now, how they treat radon, so it doesn't mean that if the house has radon, that the house is, uninhabitable. They can treat radon. So what they'll do is they'll put a radon mitigation kit in the house to make sure that they're venting the radon from up underneath the ground. It's a fan that is attached to a tube that sucks the radon from up underneath the house and vents it outside. And typically with any house with any levels of radon, they can make sure that the levels are not too high for you to live inside the house. And you don't know if you need a radon mitigation kit unless you test it. And the tests typically take 2 days. It takes 48 hours to test for radon because it's a test that happens over time. And lastly, there's a sewer inspection. Now, if you decide not to do termite and you decide not to do radon, please do a sewer inspection. Remember, if you go back to my previous video when I talked about the clay soil and the foundations here in Kansas City, they can wreak havoc on sewer lines here in Kansas City. And so pay the extra money to do a sewer inspection. If the damage to your sewer line is bad enough, it can back up. If there are tree roots in it that grow in it, it can cost as high as $20,000 I've seen. And here's the tough part is you won't know that the sewer is bad until you do a sewer inspection. There's no way to tell. If you walk through a house, there's no way to just look and see. It's all underground. There's no x-ray vision. You could run all the drains and faucets and it could run fine. And the sewer line could still be busted. So please do a sewer inspection. What they do is they take a scope they shove it down the sewer and they give you pictures and video of the inside of the sewer. So you won't know until you do that. Now, once you finish all your inspections, if you have the right to renegotiate, you submit a document of everything that you found saying that you're done with your inspections and you would like to renegotiate and you would like the seller to fix all these things that you found in the inspection, or you'd like the seller to drop their price because you need money to fix all these things with the inspection, or you'd like the seller to pay part of your closing costs or what have you, right? Now, if the contract does not allow you to ask for repairs and you decided that you're gonna take the house in its present condition, then you have two choices. You either take it or leave it, right? There's no other choice. If you like it, then you can tell them to move forward, which moves us to the financing part. Now, during this whole time probably, is you're gonna be working with your lender. Remember, the other part of your team, you're gonna be working with your lender, the lender that you chose, and you're gonna get all your financing in order. They're gonna be giving you things that they need you to submit to them. There are things like pay stubs, there are things like bank statements, there are things like proof of employment, all of those types of things, okay? They're gonna need that. And a good lender, going back to that second video of building your team, will communicate to you everything that they need from you so that you can get it from your employer, or you can dig it up from your bank statements or what have you, so that you can get it to them on time. Now, super important. Do not make large purchases at this time. Do not go and buy a car. Do not go and open up 10 new credit cards. Don't do it, because that could ruin your financial profile and you might not be able to buy the house. So in this time, when you're doing these inspections, when you're doing these things, do not go and make large purchases. It is fine to continue living. You can go out to eat. You can go buy your regular groceries, but do not make a huge purchase at this time. I have to say that. If you buy a truck during this time, you could possibly lose your house because it could change your credit score so much that you can't afford the house anymore. Now, the appraisal. We talked about a little bit about the appraisal when we talked about the contract, but the lender will order an appraisal, and we don't get to choose the appraiser. The seller does not get to choose the appraiser. The lender doesn't get to choose the appraiser. They order it, and then we have to wait to hear back from the appraisal. Now, the lender and the realtors will work together to schedule the appraisal, because the appraiser typically needs to go to that house, and we're gonna see how much the house appraises for. Remember, if it's FHA, VA, USDA, the appraiser will also do a short inspection to see if it's going to pass those loan standards. Now, there could be things that they say that need to be fixed in the house before we can close on the house. They could be major things, they could be minor things. An appraiser will determine that. Now, if the appraisal is low, or if it's short, lower than the purchase price, then you either have to renegotiate. Again, go back to that video we talked about writing the contract, about appraisal negotiations. You either have to renegotiate, or if you can't reach an agreement, then you can cancel the contract at that time. But that's typically what will happen with an appraisal. As the buyer, you will get a copy of that appraisal because you're the one who's paying for it. Again, back to assembling your team. This is the one team member that you don't get to choose. You don't get to choose your appraiser, but you still have to pay for that, and that's typically through the lender. So the lender will be working with you to pay for that appraisal. So the appraiser, again, they may want some things fixed, and they probably will need those. They will need those things fixed before you can close on the house. Let's just say you get through all of these things. You finally get what's called a clear to close. Now, that's a cause for celebration, because that means that you're clear by your lender to buy the house. They've done all their processes of verifying the fact that you can pay for this house and that you have the job that you say that you have and you have the assets that you say that you have. We've done all the stuff with inspections. We've done all the stuff with appraisal. You're clear to close. Congrats, you're ready to buy the house. Okay, what's next? Again, don't do anything financially major like buying a car or buying a truck or doing something like that, okay? Live normally, but don't do anything crazy. And what you're gonna get is called final figures from your lender and the title company. And they're gonna be working together to make sure that all the closing costs are right on both sides. And that's the amount that you're gonna have to bring to closing, and closing typically happens at the title company, and they transfer all the documents, and they will have all the documents there for you to sign to transfer the house over into your name. The loan documents, the house documents, all of those documents the title company will have, and you'll sign it typically there. Once you get final figures, that's going to be including your down payment, your closing costs, your title fees, your insurance, all of those things are going to be wrapped up into a final figure that you're going to get, that you're going to need to bring to close. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to schedule a final walkthrough. This is us as your agent and you going through the property one last time to make sure that the property is in the same condition when you last saw it. At this point, you may not have been to the house for 2 or 3 weeks because it's just inspections and appraisals and all that kind of stuff. So you're going to want to make sure that the property is still in good condition, right? If the house is vacant, you're going to want to make sure that the house is in the same condition as when you last saw it. If the house was occupied when you saw it, you're going to want to make sure that when they moved out, they didn't bang up your walls, or they didn't leave a big hole in the middle of the wall that you didn't know about, or they didn't take the fridge when they weren't supposed to take the fridge or something like that, right? Also, if you asked for repairs, this is when you're going to verify that they actually did make those repairs, that the leaky faucet that you asked for is working now, that they actually did these things that you asked them to do. And if you find out that everything is okay, then you're good to close and buy your home. So closing. So remember those final figures we talked about? What you're gonna do is you're gonna go to your bank and you're gonna get a cashier's check, or you're gonna wire the funds to the title company that's gonna close your house. Now, if you get a cashier's check, make sure to bring that cashier's check to the title company. Obviously, you're gonna need those funds to close the house. And another thing that you're gonna need is you're gonna need your photo ID. Now, if you're married, both of you need to be there. Both of you need to be there. If you're married, both of you need to be there. And the process is gonna take about 30 to 45 minutes, and you're gonna sign a whole bunch of documents. You're gonna sign documents, you're promising the lender that you're gonna pay back the loan. You're gonna sign documents that make sure the property transfers over to your name. All of these things you're gonna sign at the title company at closing. Once you're done and you've officially bought your house, you may wanna run straight to your house and move in, but wait just 1 second. The last step is possession. Okay, when you actually take possession of that property. Now, it's typical to wait until the money hits the seller's bank account for you to actually go into the house. So that could take at most a couple of hours, right? The reason that happens is to ensure that the loan process is on the up and up, that everything has gone through the way everybody promised that it would go through, and that the seller actually got their money, right? So talk to your realtor in terms of when you're actually good to go into that house, to go and take possession of that house. Now, there are situations, again, where the seller might like to have possession after you close. Maybe they need the money and they need to go take that and put that down to buy their next house. When we bought this house, we actually gave the sellers possession for almost 2 months. So we closed in this house in April, and then we didn't move in until June. So the sellers, we had already bought the house, they got the money, they needed to take the money to move to another state. And so when they were in the process of moving to another state, their daughter was still in school here and finishing up. And so we bought the house in April, and we allowed them to stay here in Kansas City until June. We let them have possession of the house for another 2 months. And we were happy to do that. That was what we negotiated in the contract. And again, you're protected, so don't be taken by surprise. And sometimes, in some situations, it's actually common for the sellers to pay rent back to you as the buyer because you officially own the house, right? So once you have possession, it's time to take your keys and move into your new house. Congratulations, you've done it. You've bought a house in Kansas City in 2023. If you've liked this series, then please subscribe to my channel. There's gonna be a lot more educational stuff that I'm gonna put out. So thank you for watching.